Hello everyone, Professor O here, bringing you another video on how to work smarter with social media. This is a 4-video segment introducing ways to make you more effective in the workplace using email management tools, LinkedIn, Hootsuite, Twitter, and more. In this first video, I want to talk about email management and focus on important messages. In subsequent videos, I'll talk about LinkedIn to strengthen your professional network, digital note-taking to stay organized, and Hootsuite to coordinate posts, and finally Twitter for news. So let's begin with a special thanks to Alexandra Samuel, who authored Work Smarter with Social Media collection, brought to you by Harvard Business Publishing. It is a fantastic resource that I recommend reading to explore these concepts in greater depth. So let's begin with email. And I want to structure this talk to really focus on helping you become more efficient with the way that you use email to help you be more focused and effective rather than overloaded and distracted at work. So let's unpack this a little bit. We'll start by controlling email, and I'll give you some pointers on how to spend more time focusing on essential messages to which you need to respond, and I'll show you some tools and techniques that you can use to really economize your time and help you focus on what you need to focus on. Second, we'll talk about the value of using a digital notebook to organize your priorities, your goals, and information that you gather. And in conclusion, we'll move on to the social media tools video, where I will show you how to focus on professional relationships that have the biggest impact. So let's take it from here on the email portion. On average, we spend about 25% of our workday on email, and that works out to about 2 hours per day and 10 hours per week. Some of us spend more than that, and some of us spend less than that, but on average, it's about this amount of time. When you think about it, it's a tremendous commitment of the workday. If you were able to reduce the amount of time you spent on email by half, you would gain an extra hour in your workday. It's quite powerful when you think about it. So essentially what I would like to show you in this presentation is how to be more efficient in email to help you carve out that extra hour in your day that you can spend on other tasks. So let's look at email in terms of what happens offline and what happens online. And in order to plan and prepare an effective email management campaign, you have to think about a few things offline first. These are strategic ideas. The most important of which, I believe, is making the decision to be selective about which messages you will see and to which you will respond. And to that end, you need to plan the use of various folders, rules, and processes in place to help you manage your inbox according to the way you want your workflow to go. Then, when the planning stage offline is over, then you need to bring that online and identify how much time you are actually spending on email. As I had mentioned, it's usually about 2 hours per day, but keep a record of how long you're actually spending on it. And then set a target for how much time you can spend on email, or set a goal for by how much time you want to reduce on managing your inbox. And the time you spend should always be a reflection of your priorities and the range of demands on your time and your attention. So here are the 6 things that you can use to improve your email efficiency. I divided them all evenly here for purposes of this illustration, but you may decide that when you're doing this in practice, you may need to recalibrate these percentages to fit your model. So first of all, the Gmail tabs is a great feature in Gmail that will enable you to organize things like promotions from your more important messages. You could put things like newsletter filters in as well to reroute all incoming mail For example, I have a listserv that I subscribe to, and I have a filter set up to move it into a specific folder. Secondly, you can schedule email times during the day. Some people like to set a time in the morning, a time in the afternoon, and then a time just at the end of the workday to check in on email. And if you split that evenly, it could be 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and 30 minutes at the end of the day, or whatever balance that you feel is appropriate and reflects your goals and your workflow. The next item is to turn off push notifications. We get them on our mobile phones, we get them on our desktop. If you use Outlook, you get that archetypal chime that goes off. If you're on iPhone or whatnot, you would get whatever your push notice sound is, and that can often be very distracting and interrupt whatever you're doing, and you compulsively check your email. One way to silence that is to turn off that particular push notification so that you can focus on the task at hand and only address email during your designated times of the day. And then you can create a backlog of those non-essential messages, things that I will show you in even greater detail on a slide coming up about how to manage that backlog. And then finally, to use email management tools. So here's what I was talking about here in organizational categories for email. There are, from my point of view, there are about 3 meta categories here. There are messages that require a response. It's where you put an email that you've read and you need to respond to into this type of folder, but you might need a moment to responding to it. And how many of you have just marked that message as unread, and it stays in your inbox, but then other messages come in on top of it, and it keeps getting pushed down? And then you go back to it, and you make your response to it. Sometimes this creates an effect where it gets kind of buried among all these other incoming messages, and it can be very frustrating and disorganized. I find that creating a specific folder that's titled Response Needed, when I have a message like this that needs some time for me to formulate a response, I just drop it into the Response Needed folder, and then it gets it out of my queue. Follow-up needed is another important category for email, and this is where you put an email that you requested someone's input on. You can organize this one of 2 ways. You can either BCC yourself on a message that you send to a coworker that requires a follow-up, and then you set a filter where everything where you BC yourself just pushes directly into that folder. And if you organize it that way, then you automatically get a message into your follow-up folder that you can refer back to later. Another way I've seen it done is you can move your sent messages to this specific folder until you get a follow-up back from that person. So for example, a follow-up needed would be, let's say you need a response from somebody about whether or not they're going to attend a presentation, say a week from now. And you send out that email, and then you BC yourself that you need a response from that person by a certain time, and then if you don't hear from them within 4 or 5 days, then you can send a follow-up message as needed. The last category I want to talk about is a filter needed. We all get lots of messages that come on a regular interval. I get them at my office. They come from the area of marketing and communications and outreach, and they are flagged with a specific keyword marketing, and I just move all the messages that have that keyword into this particular folder, and it organizes it very nicely, and then I can go back to that, say once a week or every 3 or 4 days if need be, to go in there and refer to it when I have the time. So those were some of the effective email routines that I wanted to share with you. I want you to remember that you are always in control of your workflow, and that it can seem chaotic and disorganized. And if you implement these techniques and strategies, you can help rein that in and help your workflow remain more organized. I'll see you online.